what I found plausible is committing, and that's how the 100 Days of Code came to be. Committing to 1 hour for the 100 days, and I just like randomly announced it on Medium. And thank you, Quincy, for posting it back then. And since then, the movement began around the 100 Days of Code of just people committing. You can do it self-promotion. You can do it on Twitter, like with the hashtag 100 Days of Code, or the website. You can learn more about it there. But I'll talk more about the habits now. So I think there are two things I want to mention. First thing is that you see all these people, young people, like 18, 20, they have all the time in the world, and they're coding like every day. Why not, right? They have the time, and here you are with kids or with a job, and you've already had your education, you think, right? And you're in doubt whether you can learn to code if you only have 1 hour or 2 hours a day, and that is possible. And it doesn't have to be that same basement startup culture, because it was that way, and it's moving away from it as more and more people learn to code, because people are different and everybody has their own way of learning, everybody has their own lifestyle. But if you have a lifestyle set up and you want to change it, it doesn't mean that you are stuck there. And go to FreeCodeCamp and learn. 1 hour a day can change your life instantly, not instantly, with time, right? So, and yeah, it's very difficult to establish habits because of all the life that gets into your way. It's your friends, inviting you to parties. It's your job keeping you longer there. But as long as you don't quit and don't stop, you're on your way. And no matter how small your contribution to the learning each day, if it's 15 minutes you have, do the 15 minutes. It all counts. It all will come to fruition, but it won't if you stop, because it's obvious. But what I wanted to say is, during the times of like not being sure if I'll be able to find a job in coding, or like will I be able, won't I be able, I don't know. I had these doubts, like should I drop it? And I kept reminding myself that if, let's say it's my 25th day of learning to code, if I quit today, it's not what I thought. I thought, imagine how many people who also started to code on the same day as I did will quit today, or have already quit. Or that might help you as well, because you're on your way. I'm starting to ramble, but you understand. Perfect. So next question. Developer life, expectation, what you expected it would be versus reality.
Well, I had a lot of free time all of a sudden. now working 40 hours a week was, wow, crazy. I couldn't believe now I have so much time to learn. So I rapidly started to progress because I had more time on my hands. So what I thought versus what I expected. Yeah, I've been caught in some things where I didn't know what I was doing, and I had to admit it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have been working on creative teams in all of my roles. So I've been a lone programmer, pretty much. So there's a development team like offshore, or I have to find Slack in the right time zone. So there's a lot of difficulties with me getting support. So what I did was actually the Toronto JS community has been really great. FreeCodeCamp is really great with their chat. You can go on chat and anybody can help you. You're not alone. So if you find yourself on a team where you're the only developer for a while, there's so many people out there on Slack, FreeCodeCamp, and on Twitter. If you just ask a question on Twitter, thousands of people will answer you, especially if you hashtag things. So my expectation was that I'd have a mentor, everything would, continue learning, but the quest for learning alone, it never stops. So be resourceful.
Emily?
I think that what was most surprising to me is actually like majority of people don't really know what they're doing, even if they're super experienced. And so if you feel like you don't know what you're doing, it's actually okay. Or maybe a sign of like the complexity of the problems that you're solving. And so when yeah, I started working as a developer. Like, we were solving these really hard problems, and often we'd huddle together and, you know, do some solutioning and figuring out the best way to go about solving the problem, and go from there. And that's usually like how the workflow worked on the team. Like, nobody knew from their memory how to go about implementing something without Googling anything at all. And if you have all that stuff memorized, like, I don't know what like you're doing in your spare time. And so I think the real important thing is like figure out how to solve the problem rather than like knowing how to solve the problem already. It's a lot of learning on the job anyway, and so part of being a developer is just like learning on the job and figuring out the best way to solve the problem. You don't have to have all the solutions already, and even the most experienced programmers don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a consensus. No one knows what we're doing. Like, we don't know what we're doing. I seen one person post online, you can only determine the tabs that I have open on Google Chrome by its favicon. You have so many tabs when you're searching and building something. But yeah, that's kind of me. When I started in development, it was so difficult, I guess, compared to what we've been doing when we start to learn. We build these really small projects. You might have 6 files in the project. And then I went from that to production applications with hundreds of files. And I have to learn how to sift through all this information to find what I need. So it's a lot harder than I thought it would be to start. I guess that's kind of the difference. But yeah, the reality is most things that you're going to build, you got to take it, you need to build something, you're not going to know how to build it, so you just need to start searching and go from there. And that's, I guess, the reality of development is you'll always have to learn something new.
Perfect. Maddie?
Yeah, so echo what everyone else said, like, after you become a developer, you don't get magic abilities to just code stuff, like, we're all lost, and it's just that some people are less lost than others, and if you're new, you're going to be a little more lost, so don't be afraid to ask questions. And secondly is that like organization and like good clean coding practices became super important, right? While I was learning, like, you know, Andrew said, like, I was just trying to get through everything quickly, so I didn't get a solid understanding. And then when I got my first job doing React, I'm like, shit, I actually don't know React. I'm like, I'm gonna get fired in 2 weeks. Like, this is gonna be really bad. So yeah, just have like really good you know, coding practices, and don't be afraid to ask questions, like organization, commenting, formatting, and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I can say that my expectations were that by now I would be a billionaire with the new Facebook or something like that. And unfortunately, my reality is that I spend most of my day coding and creating things and struggling with, everybody say that is the feeling of I'm an imposter. I know nothing about what I'm doing here right now. And if it's working, it's 10% because of what I did, 90% because of magic. So this is this is the feeling that we have every single day, and it's actually part of being a developer. It's actually struggling every day with that you actually it's better than you think that you are, and this is true for everybody, even the person who just started learning. You are better than you think that you are.
I agree. So for me, and after this answer, we will take your questions. So prepare them. When I first joined the tech world, I expected, I guess erroneously, that for some reason there will be mentors that will mentor me, and they'll like teach me all these technologies, and like there'll be code reviews, and there'll be processes for everything, and everything is like backed up, triple backed up. But no, nothing of that is happening. And especially if you start at a small company, be prepared that you will be figuring things out, like the guys and girls said. But it doesn't mean that you have to know how to do it. It'll come to you. The people that are expecting you to figure it out also don't know how to do it, otherwise they would do it themselves. Another thing is learn to self-guide yourself. That's the most important part. No company will ever no matter how great the company is, some maybe, but the usual company will not care about your career going in a certain specific direction you envision. They have their product, they have technologies, they have the processes of, oh, in 2 years from now, we will probably update to this technology that's already outdated. But you can learn on your own during your spare time, and that way you'll be able to kind of guide yourself and guide your own career as you go along to the place where you want it to go. So let's say you're working with PHP or anything else that you don't like. I don't want to hate on PHP, but let's say you don't like it. So blame on you. And you want to switch. So you start learning React. You learn React, you keep learning it, and at a certain period of time when you feel like you're ready, you can just jump ship and go to another company where you will do React, which would not have happened if you didn't self-guide yourself. So yeah, my basic advice is don't expect the company to do it yourself. And that's it, we will take your questions from now on. So raise your hands if you have a question.
Hi. I'm somebody who comes from a background without a degree. I'm currently in the trades as a wood finisher. Hey, what up? And I'm also learning programming for the first time. So I just wanted to know how you guys would view somebody who's coming into it, no background, no degree behind them, and if you saw them as a potential hire, like, would you be a little, maybe not so much?
So I also happen to be a startup founder a couple of times before, and I would say that shows me a ton of hustle, and I like that, right? I would love to hire someone like you because I don't care if you have a degree or not. If you can figure stuff out, and coding is all about figuring stuff out and not having people hold your hand, you are exactly what I want, right? So you may not want to go directly to look for your first job, go to Facebook or Google. But if you just code email startups and show them what you can do, you have a really good chance. So keep going and don't stop.
I totally agree. So I do a lot of interviewing at Shopify, and we see a lot of candidates who come in who don't have traditional computer science backgrounds, and what really matters at the end of the day is if you're able to show that you can actually build stuff and you can get stuff done. And I think if you're able to also show that you taught yourself how to do that, that's even more impressive. So yeah, I don't think that would be a hindrance to your job search.
And would you like
Keep
to
going.
Keep it up.
And I would answer using myself as an example. I'm a dropout from 7 different colleges. I never finished a college before, so, and I'm here.
And a quick add is, if the company tells you that they don't hire in principle, that if you don't have a computer science background, it's not your problem, it's their problem. And in the future, if they keep it up, they will have less talented people, not less talented, but less access to the talented people, because the pool is much wider than they look so narrowly into. So don't take it as blame on you. Just look for the companies, and they exist. Shopify and all these companies exist that want to hire you, and people like you who are self-starters.
Other questions?
I have one last thing to add, and that's to, if you're just starting out, try email development, because you can get your foot in the door easily.
Yes, good question.
So, yeah, so in my experience, when I was going through my very first interviews to get a developer job, I heard from a lot of people that I was speaking to, they would say, your application is unique in that I built my resume around little apps that I've made through FreeCodeCamp, and I put a website on up and showcasing these apps, and they say, you have maybe a knack for design. We thought it was very nice. Your code on GitHub is nice. So I think somebody without background in computer science like us, or some of you, you want to show off that skill in this way. So I think that really helped me get into development, get my my foot in the door. At least for Miram, anyway. They saw the potential, and they took me on.
Good for them.
I have a question about. Whoa, my phone sounds so weird.
That's fine.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Hello? Okay.
It's working.
I have a question about mirroring the time you spend self-teaching against working in the industry. Like, I've been to some Toronto coding meetups, and I've met people who've worked at places like Pivotal Labs, and they told me the way we work is we work for 2 weeks really, really hard, and then we take a break for 2 weeks really, really hard. And so I did that to get my front-end certificate from FreeCodeCamp, but I want to know, is this like too slow, or should I I heard Andrew used to work like 14 hours a day. Would that be like a better choice for someone like me who has all the free time?
Could I start answering the question? I think it's up to you. It doesn't, like as I said before, it doesn't have to be a certain amount standard that you have to do. If you don't do it, you're not a real developer or not like a real learner. It's the time that you can afford to give to it, it's enough. Like, it's basically feeling good about yourself. You don't have to meet a certain standard to understand that it's good to grow and to learn. The more time you can give to it, give it all the time you got. If you get tired, take a rest. Like, you don't have to be like this machine that like people sometimes imagine. And I used to imagine the developers being like this, or like just like hacking away all night, like all this like energy drinks and stuff. Like my 5th energy drink, and I'm just like coffee and things like this. It doesn't have to be this way. It's what we make of the computer science, like not computer science, what we make of development. It's not what development kind of is in certain people's minds. So, yeah.
I think it's incredibly important to remember that everybody learns differently. So for Andrew, maybe 14 hours a day is great, and he's like super absorbed. That's awesome. My attention span is like an hour sometimes. Like I'll absorb so much in an hour rather than 10 hours. Some days, oh my God, 8 hours. I just learned a whole bunch of stuff. Oh my God, I forgot to eat lunch, stuff like that. So like, just remember that every day is different. Every human is different. Everybody learns differently. So don't compare yourself. First of all, that's really bad. Like I'm just compared myself to him, but I'm saying like every day, just be careful. I'm rambling. But anyways, just remember that like everything's a variable. It's never gonna always be the same.
Yeah, I just recommend like figuring out the cadence that works for you. And so maybe 14 hours a day could burn you out, but less than that would be just right. And it may take some time to figure out what balance is, like how much. We did talk about like habits too, right? And so maybe if you can like figure out what habits work for you and don't cause you to feel super tired, or also don't like help your learning, you learn quickly enough, like figure out what that is to you, and then you could try to set some goals around just like keeping up with that habit.
Yeah, I can talk by myself. If I try to work hard 2 weeks, I can do it totally. If I try to take 2 weeks slow and to study and something like that, I will spend of these 2 weeks around 10 days playing something on PlayStation or something like that, and 2 or 3 hours a day studying, because it consumes me study too much. I can't do that. I can get this rhythm this way. So for every person is different. For me, 2 hours a day, sometimes I want to learn more, but I cannot grasp. The day before yesterday, I was trying to read an interesting book on JavaScript by 11 p.m., and I drew over the book. My book has a stain now because I literally drew over the book. So take your time, do in your rhythm. Don't follow what others say it's the best for you.
Okay, so just in efforts to get a few more questions in, can we just do maybe one panelist answer a question so that we can get a couple more answers?
Okay, so this is directed to any of you guys. So currently I'm with Loblaws Digital. While I was making my transition over to product design and management, I saw that there was a big stigma to some hiring managers against people coming in who don't come from the conventional computer science background. I've met people personally who've had experienced that stigma, and it's created a lot of barriers to entry. So have you guys experienced that, and do you have any tips for people who are trying to break past that barrier?
So this is like something I've experienced. So the things you can do is that say, oh, I know I didn't do CS, but I did these like self-learning courses on algorithms and whatever, right? And then sometimes like what I actually experience is in the interview, they shy away from asking you algorithm questions, even though you know how to do that. So when you feel like they're judging you or a little bit biased in the interviewing, and you feel like it's actually not to your advantage, tell them, hey, feel free to ask me hard questions. Worst case is I don't know, and you can tell me the answer, I'll learn something, right? So yeah, there's a lot of bias in the industry in many ways, and you are gonna run into them. But what you can do is figure out how to leverage your own background, how to like improve your own profile to deal with these biases. And if you don't get a job because they're biased against no CS degree, guess what? That actually is a good thing for you. So yeah, don't worry about it and just do what you can to, go around that.
Hi, I'm Nina, and I was just wondering, the vast majority of jobs on job boards require a computer science degree, so kind of going off the first question, so I was wondering whether you still recommend applying to those jobs and explaining or just ignoring them, or?
So I will not answer the question, but I will repeat it first, and then we can decide who answers. So the answer is, or the question is, there are a lot of jobs that require to have a computer science degree. Should you apply to them at all or not, right? Okay, perfect. So who wants to take that question? Okay, Christina.
Okay, in my current position right now, actually, they're hiring for a role to as support for me, and in California, they're part of the hiring process, and they're very, very obsessed with finding somebody with like a computer degree. But like, I don't have one. I'm doing the work of 2 people right now, and so eventually, what happens is all the applicants that come in, 80% don't have the science degree. So I apply for jobs that I'm super underqualified for constantly, and you know what? I do get those jobs sometimes, and don't let the description ever deter you. If you don't know something that it says, or you have less years, it says 5 years of this, 5 years of that, and you have 1 year, just keep trying. Like the chances that the applicants have exactly what they're looking for is extremely slim most of the time. So my advice is to just apply to all of them.
I just need to add something real quick, and that's because like studies have shown that like guys will just go and apply to jobs, and it's totally good for you guys. But ladies will only apply to jobs they feel like they're super qualified for, and that's gonna hurt you, right? So understand you have that bias and tweak against it. So just apply for any jobs that you're interested in that you think you might be able to hustle, and do it.
It's also good to practice interviewing, so keep going with that.
Okay, I'm Rona, so I'm probably the oldest in the group. No, okay.
Age doesn't matter.
Okay, I think we all know what we want, right? That's why we all came here. I mean, especially for those who are just starting to go into software development. And I think I want to thank the panelists for telling us probably how to do it. Because there's 2 things, right? We strategize and we execute. So like me, I'm having a hard time learning because I'm having a hard time with the momentum. So I've actually attended Lighthouse Labs introduction last year, but I wasn't able to turn the momentum. And like Christina, I had to get a job. I had to earn something first, and I'm saving up. But now that I didn't take I'll admit, I wasn't accepted into the cohort at Lighthouse. I think I applied in June. But I'm thankful because I wasn't ready. I was like coming from kinder, and if I went to the boot camp, it's like a master's at once, right? So I have to prepare myself, and I've looked at FreeCodeCamp. I'm actually doing a Udemy course. I'm taking the one of Rob Percival, and for me, that's working out. The thing is, it's finding the 1 hour to code, which you are all telling us to do, right? Because when you come home from work, your brain is like, I mean, my job right now is admin, but I find it stressful because that isn't me. You know, I'm doing something I don't like. So no, I just really want to say thank you, because I have my notes here, and if people are interested, I'm reading this book by Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work, and it's about focus. It's because that's I think for me, when I get home, I turn on the TV just because I need, well, my question to them is actually, I knew the statements, right? But this is it's a weird question. Do you need to have a Facebook account to succeed as a developer? I mean, do you have to sign up? Because I don't have one. I've always shied away from, because I'm probably very introverted. So I just tell my friends, hey, if you need something from me, just email me. I just have really a Viber. And I even turned off my WhatsApp account. But I heard Quincy saying, right, hey, your meetups they're on Facebook, right? So, but what if, do you need to?
Oh, I just said that I don't really have Facebook either. I have an account, but I never use it, so you don't need anything, really. Like, if you want to be a developer and you think, oh, I can't do it because of this or that, that is a false assumption. You need to figure it out. There's always a way. So, no, you don't need a Facebook account, you don't need a CS degree, and you don't need, like, 5 years experience. You can do it, just figure it out.
Hello. Oh. Hello, guys. Sorry for my English. It's not very good, but I will try. I just have one question for you. You just said that when you start working with other people, the good coding practices, like writing clean code, and reusable code and things like that, became very, very important. So, do you have any advice on how to get those good coding habits? Because when you learn at your own, usually you don't know if you are writing good code or not. That's my question.
Yeah, I can reply that. One of the things that it's most interesting about the development community, it's everybody it's quite happy to help. So if you are doing your own project, a small code, put that on GitHub and ask for someone that you admire, that you like it on Twitter or whatever, to do a code review in your code. Most of the time, you will receive good replies. Sometimes people will just ignore you, but most of the time, people will actually actively look at your code and give you some hints. That's something that actually really works well for me when I'm doing my side projects. I ask for some people that I admire, that I like of their code, to do code reviews for me. So they look at my code and say, yeah, I would do that different, I would do this or that, and grow up with that.
If I can just add to that, one thing I'd highly recommend is taking the step from working independently on projects to working with other people, and then that way you can get reviews, code reviews, and stylistic reviews from other people that you're collaborating with. There's lots of really great open source opportunities where anybody in the world can contribute, and I can assure you, you will get lots of comments on your code and your style. With code, like clean code and best practices, there's linters that you can install, or things that like check the style of your code, and you can like build that right into your text editor sometimes too. So would highly recommend looking into those as well, and those will also help instill best practices. And one other thing that I really wanted to mention was testing is super important, and they really don't emphasize that enough when you first start out, but I find that employers, like especially when I first was looking for work, employers love the fact that I knew how to write tests, and that's something that I would strongly emphasize when you start your job search.
Cool. We have time for one last question over here.
Hi, I'm Zach. So I did a couple interviews after doing the front-end developer certificate and the data visualization certificate on FreeCodeCamp. So the interviews went really well with the senior developers, but I found as soon as I met someone higher, like a manager or something, they got very concerned about my lack of real-world experience. And I think that might be part of like why I'm not getting the job. So I was just wondering, like, my question is like, what do you guys think is a good way to like reassure them, like, hey, I've done these projects, like I've spent the time to learn, but I don't have like experience writing like production code. And they always, like, they never like worried about my lack of a CS degree or anything, but it was always like the experience that really affected my chances, because they always made a point of it. Like, they would look at my resume and ask like, where's the experience? And then I'd have to say like, I don't have any. I have just like personal projects. Thanks.
Okay, cool.
My first thing is to build up your projects. Like, go on GitHub and find, like, if you're a lone programmer, go on GitHub and try to do some work on some projects with some people, just like Emily just mentioned, and then you can actually put that on your resume. I've done that before too. I work with a small group called Volcano, and they're based in Norway, and some of the people are in the UK, so it's worldwide in a Slack channel. We all hang out, but they build a couple products, and they're free, they're open source. I haven't contributed to that specific one, but some other ones I did, and I put that on my resume when I first started. And my second piece of advice is try all the tech recruiter companies, because they'll hire when you don't have as much experience, and they're more willing to hire people that. So I'm trying to think of. I'm not going to say what they all are. Just look up like tech recruiters in Toronto, and you'll find somebody. And it's their job to find work for you. So I highly recommend that route in the beginning, and then just keep building stuff. And I think like just because you worked on it for free doesn't mean it doesn't count. And that manager, like, if they don't want to hire you, it's probably not the best job for you right now, anyways. So I think keep trying with recruiters.
And one last thing to add, when you're in the phase of like, I know enough to code and I know I'm good and I'm just looking for my job, right? It's cool. What you can do is brand yourself as a consultant, build a website, offer yourself as offer your web development services as a business, right? And now you can actually say, I have production experience, I have a lot of experience. Feel free to call any of my clients and I'll tell you how good I am, right? So hustle and figure out ways to like position and brand your experiences differently. Yeah. Just keep going.
One more thing I'd recommend is like deploying an app to production and making it live. And like, if you can show that you taught yourself how to do this and like, here, this is a real production app and like there's people using it, then there's really no excuse that you don't have production experience.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Can we have a big round of applause for all our panelists? So again, that's Christina, Emily, Andrew, Maddie, Leo, and Alex. When we break for lunch, feel free to come and ask them any questions if you had any other burning questions inside you. So one thing that I wanted to mention is we're going to break for lunch right now, and we've got food at the back. There's gluten-free options. There's vegetarian options. So if you have any of those dietary restrictions, go and let them know. One thing, who here has Twitter? Can you raise your hand if you got Twitter? Okay, I want to point out that we're trending at number 3 on Twitter right now. So can you all right now go on Twitter, take a picture of you and the person right next to you, or something that's happening at this conference, or a quote that you heard, and tweet it out with the hashtag FreeCodeConf. And let's get above. Wait, let's see what the other ones are. They are Craft Bear Hugs. And
we can beat that, yeah.
DXC17. So let's get above Craft Bear Hugs. All right. So without further ado, get up, stretch your legs, head over there for lunch. We've got lunch. We've got pop. We've got drinks. We've got water. Oh, the mic's dead. And we will come back at 1:30. And we're going to be speaking with Juan Gonzalez, the lead instructor at Lighthouse Labs, to talk about self-directed learning. We're going to be talking with Erica Wright, who's going to tell us about cool stuff at Mozilla. And we've also got Anna McKenzie, who's going to be talking about challenges as
Because I was reading through the event, they told
at a final panel later this afternoon. So let's go grab some lunch and come back at 1:30, please. Thank you.